All right, folks, it's a new year and I'm under the sheets. Too cheap to get a microphone or do anything. Really lazy, actually. And I wanted to keep this podcast up to date because I haven't recorded an episode for a while. And this is going to be no editing. It's going to be straight one shot. It's like those famous auteurs, you know, the film directors that film their opening scenes and just no cuts, you know, rolling camera, and they got the big boom shot and all the action's happening. This is just gonna be a fucking shit show, okay? This is an explicit show. This is for adults. If you have young ears, you need to get off your device and go outside and find a dog and throw it a bone. I'm gonna try to organize this because I've wondered how much chaos is actually, you know, with AI, everything is perfect and people just regurgitate shit. It's often bulleted and lacks any in-depth, profound statements. And so what I'm starting to realize is being human is actually just being fallible, being absolutely atrocious, being just a fucking wreck and a piece of shit. And that little anus, that's all you got. You sit on a little anus. We all do. So I wanted to kind of get through and do a table of contents, and in communication they tell your audience what you're going to tell them, then tell them what you've told them. Okay, that's what I'm going to do. So here's what I'm going to tell you about what I'm going to tell you. Yuri Ancarani, he's a director from Italy. Kanopy, this is the app I use, by the way, and I'm going off script, and that's why I never got hired at this company that did watch ads, and I think it was some magazine that you get on the airlines. I forget what it was, but no, it was selling pianos, not Yamahas, but the big bad IPO, the Steinways. And I had to read the script, and I didn't read the script. I obviously didn't get the job, and so that's why I'm really just I'm human. I'm really bad at following scripts and rules and shit. So Yuri Ancarani, director of Atlantide, 2021. It's a movie I saw on Kanopy. Not a great movie, but I liked that I could point out what I didn't like about it. And I liked that it was just a movie you would never see. It had no marketability to it, but it was really, for me, it hit because it was about like being young and hedonistic. And it's about speedboats on this little island north of Venice, and it's like techno music. There's no narrative. There's really little script, but it's just like these young kids racing around in little tiny speedboats, and I thought it was kind of cool. And the last shot was just way too long, but I think you're going to see this movie come out in a different form because it tapped into the unseen, like, local populace of a highly visited area like Venice. And you just see with Airbnb, everybody's very transactional, and we should remember the last forgotten Californian, according to our former Governor Brown. So I want to talk about local, or not even local, but like current topics. I know I try to stay away from those. And I just go over the book, and I was like, you know, it's really boring. And even what's more boring is just like reviewing a Supreme Court case. And I was like, you know what, this show needs to be less boring, obviously, because it needs to extend to more people. And I need to make some fucking money because I'm boiling hot under the covers here. So I need like $5 a month from, like, everyone can just contribute a penny. But it's really tough to get over that initial benchmark, you know, where you can actually generate and monetize, blah, blah, blah. Figure that out later. I want to talk about Greenland, okay? This is my second item. This island is 836,000 square miles. It's 56,000 people, mostly Intuit, you know, indigenous, Eskimo, I guess you could say. They get subsidies from Denmark, and I think it's like $500 million a year, which comes down to like $9,000 per person. And they have copper, cobalt, nickel. You know, And I'm curious, like, why is it acceptable for Denmark to be why is the status quo okay? And when I see people defend the status quo, it's always like they don't have any reason. It's just, that's the status quo. So I'm like, you know what? Going back to that movie and just being a rebel and a young guy, why not? That's my kind of thing. So just a plug for my Substack, Substack.tbps. I'll post this stuff on there, but honestly, I don't have enough followers where it's just not worth it. But I would like to have a place where all this stuff that gets regurgitated out of my mouth is put in a little nicer format in writing, and you can click on the links, go see all this stuff. Again, not worth my time. I don't have enough viewers, listeners, that this is just, it's not worth my time. I don't make any money, and it's not worth it. TikTok, this ownership divestiture, I haven't listened to the case yet, but it came out Friday. I do want to hear the oral hearing, but there's these two arguments. One is the First Amendment, curtailing, Americans' access to sources of inconvenient news or information. And then the other argument is, the national security and having a Chinese company beholden to the CCP to basically, control an algorithm and manipulate or surveil the local populace. And so it's like a sovereignty issue. I haven't listened to the case yet, but kind of interesting to me just because it's like 170 million people use that app. That seems like a lot. There's a guy on X who's been responding to these fires in LA, and he's a Harvard grad, and he talks about nuance. Like, I think his bio said, like, embrace nuance. But he was going over, I'm losing breath because there's no oxygen under the sheets here. I'm like using a duvet to muffle the sound because I'm not going to buy a microphone. And there's just too much noise. In the city, like, people use these little tiny leaf blowers for like wet leaves. Just pick the fucking thing up. It's so goddamn loud. You realize when you're trying to make a podcast, like, there's so much noise. And it's like little things. But so this guy, he talks about nuance and just how, like, there's one side that says, you don't need to politicize this emergency or disaster. The other side is it's like, it's all global warming, blah, blah, blah. But just, like, think about what government should do and what it didn't do. And then, like, kind of reverse engineer, like, what are you paying taxes for? I guess that's my question, was like, if you have people making $750,000 that are heads of things and those things don't work, you don't get a pass for the one time that people need that, like water. So I thought it was good that this guy brought up some nuance here that just kind of points to the disaster, the human disaster, really, of like what happened there. I don't want to get too involved. That's why I stay away from local topics. I'm starting to lose oxygen here. Okay, I got to get through the rest of this. I just wanted to say all these streaming apps, Netflix, Max, Amazon, Prime, they're all crap. I was watching a documentary. They tried to extend that crazy Ukrainian adopted kid, Grace or something. And they tried to do like a next season. It was like, why do I watch this shit? And so I go back to Kanopy, it's this library app, and I find these movies, and I'm just like, wow, the artists that have committed, that there was that, it was like a TV show, Broad City, I think, and I forget her name, but she's just like, she cracks me up. She directed, no, it was the lady from Californication who directed this new movie, Babes, and it's hilarious. I loved it. FUBO. So one thought I had was this, with this show, I'm not going to charge you anything. It's going to be free. I don't want advertising either. But I was thinking, if I add value by showing you like how to make money, for example, FUBO, like let's look at this stock, because I've talked about this and I've felt stupid about it, but I finally felt vindicated because the last 3 months, 225% bitches. That would pay for your subscription to this shit. Another podcast I was listening to was about tea and mahogany. And don't ask me why. I think the series is something about like Ben Franklin. But I never thought about how everything came from tea, like sugar, slavery, plantations, cutting down or deforestation. And then I've been drinking tea because I'm doing dry January. So I was just thinking, how did we like get tea all the way from China? And I guess it was really light. So it made sense, but still doesn't really make sense to me. But yeah, that was really boring. That was like gray-haired, like your library's hosting an event for senior citizens, that kind of thing. I listened to another podcast about our 118th Congress, how like the House, we keep doing these continuing resolutions because they can't pass all 12 appropriation bills, and like only 5 of them got signed in the House or something. I don't know. It just seems dysfunctional, but that's nothing new. And that's also a gray-haired senior citizen moment. Bryan Johnson, this is the guy who wants to live forever. He was on Barry Weiss. I hated him, and then I was like, you know what? Good for him. He's committed, and I don't understand how he does it. Just trying to do dry January. I'm like, whew, no drinks at all, no indulgences, and like he's talking to Barry, and he's like, I haven't indulged for a long time, and he doesn't do anything bad. He's just completely about man's or the human endeavor to live forever. And he's convinced he's not going to die, which is like, okay, you're crazy, but committed. All his data is public, and he's probably kicking all our asses in terms of providing for the greater good. So good on him. And if my hatred, it's just envy and further proof that I'm a piece of shit and I'm not a robot. That's good. So now I'm going to tell you what I told you. We talked about Atlantide, this, I don't know, techno-Italian kind of cool movie. Very sexy, very hip, kind of young Italian, where I was like, I'm never going to be as cool as like a young Italian. You know what I mean? Never going to, it's just not going to happen. I can try, but, and then we talked about Greenland. It just seems like there's like not a lot of people on the island. So like, why can't we take it? I mean, what are you going to do about it? Like might is right in some sense. Unless there's like I think we could probably pay all the people on the island more than $10,000 a year, and they'd be more happy, and we could just probably have some better environmental controls there. So, I mean, we're good at a lot of stuff. My Substack, oh man, there's no oxygen under here. Whew. Okay, TikTok ownership. A lot of people use it. I see a lot of TikTok videos on X. I'm just like, holy shit, everyone's on this. So they better figure it out. Otherwise, they're going to have a lot of pissed off people. And then the nuance of this California fire. I love seeing the outrage from Fox, and then seeing the sanctimonious left being like, everything's fine. It's just climate change, right? I want to make a plug for Kanopy. It's got these hidden gems. And then FUBO, don't buy it. This is a disclosure. Don't do anything I tell you or say on this. Don't listen to me. I don't know anything. Tea and mahogany. Continuing resolution, Bryan Johnson, dry January. I'm out.